When a 32-year-old single father drowning in debt is offered a huge sum of money in a fake marriage by a 30-year-old billionaire, his boss, he knows it's his only chance to save his crumbling life. But what begins as a cold contract will become something far more dangerous as the line between pretense and reality begins to blur. Follow my story to the end, like and comment where you're watching to let me know how far this story has come. The eviction notice was pink. Nathan Hayes had always thought that was a cruel choice. Like someone in an office somewhere had decided that the color of little girls' birthday parties would be the perfect shade for destroying a man's life. He stood in the doorway of his apartment, still holding his daughter's backpack in one hand and the notice in the other. The paper trembled slightly. Not from fear exactly. More from the kind of exhaustion that settles into your bones when you've been running on empty for so long that you forget what full feels like. "Daddy, I'm hungry." Nathan looked down at Lily, who was 6 years old and currently obsessed with dinosaurs and the color purple and asking questions he didn't know how to answer. Her blonde hair was tangled from the playground, and there was dirt on her knees from when she'd fallen during recess. She'd cried for maybe 30 seconds, then gotten back up. She was tougher than him, probably. "I know, sweetheart. Let's get you a snack." He crumpled the notice and shoved it in his pocket, then ushered Lily inside. The apartment was small. One bedroom that Lily had, and a couch in the living room that Nathan had been sleeping on for 2 years. The furniture was mostly secondhand, the kind of stuff people put out on curbs with free signs. But it was clean. He made sure of that. While Lily settled at the kitchen table with crackers and apple slices, Nathan pulled out his phone and opened his banking app. The number was worse than he'd expected. -$463. He'd overdrafted again. That meant more fees, more calls from the bank, more nights lying awake doing math that never worked out in his favor. Rent was due in 5 days. He was already 2 months behind. The notice gave him 7 days to pay everything or get out. 7 days. He had 463 reasons why that wasn't going to happen, and that wasn't even counting the other debts. The credit cards he'd maxed out during Sarah's cancer treatments, the medical bills that kept coming even after she died, the car that needed new tires and an oil change and probably a whole engine, but he couldn't afford to find out. Nathan closed the app and set the phone face down on the counter. "Can we have pizza tonight?" Lily asked, her mouth full of crackers. "Maybe this weekend," Nathan said, which was the answer he always gave when the real answer was no. He worked at a small creative agency in Denver, the kind of place that called itself a startup, and talked about disruption but mostly just made forgettable ads for local businesses. Nathan was a junior designer, which was a fancy way of saying he did whatever no one else wanted to do. The pay was bad, the hours were worse, but it was flexible enough that he could pick Lily up from school most days, and in the calculus of his life, that mattered more than money. Except now he didn't have money or stability, and the flexibility wasn't going to mean much if they were living in his car. His phone buzzed, a text from his boss. "Celeste Rowan. My office. Tomorrow, 9 a.m. Don't be late." Nathan stared at the message. Celeste didn't text. She had an assistant for that. And she definitely didn't text him. In the 8 months he'd worked at Rowan Creative Group, he'd spoken to her maybe 3 times, and each conversation had been under 30 seconds. She wasn't cold exactly, more like someone who operated at a frequency most people couldn't access. Brilliant, efficient, and completely uninterested in anything that didn't serve her goals. Also, she was 30 years old and already running a company worth $500 million. So maybe she'd earned the right to be intimidating. Nathan typed back, "Got it." Then he deleted it and wrote, "I'll be there." That felt better, professional, like someone who had his life together and wasn't currently staring at an eviction notice. "Daddy, look!" Lily held up a drawing she'd made at school. It was him and her, standing in front of what he assumed was their apartment building, except in the drawing, the building was purple and there was a dinosaur on the roof. "That's amazing, Lil." "The dinosaur is a friend. He protects us." Nathan felt something crack in his chest. "Yeah, what's his name?" "She. Her name is Stella. Stella the dinosaur. I like it." Lily beamed, then went back to coloring. Nathan watched her for a moment, memorizing the way her tongue stuck out slightly when she concentrated. If he couldn't fix this, if he couldn't keep a roof over her head, What kind of father did that make him? The next morning, Nathan dropped Lily off at school, then sat in the parking lot for 10 minutes trying to figure out why Celeste Rowan wanted to see him. The options weren't great. Either he was getting fired or he'd screwed something up so badly that she needed to fire him in person. He drove to the office in a daze, parked in the garage, and took the elevator to the top floor. Rowan Creative Group occupied 3 floors of a downtown high-rise, but the executive suite was on the 15th. Nathan had only been up here once during his initial interview. The assistant, an efficient-looking woman in her 40s, waved him through without a word. The door to Celeste's office was open. She was standing by the window, looking out at the city. Nathan had seen her plenty of times from a distance, at company meetings, in the hallways, but never like this. Up close, she was even more striking than he'd realized. Tall, with dark hair pulled back in a way that looked effortless, but probably wasn't. She wore a black suit that fit like it had been made specifically for her, which it probably had. Everything about her suggested control, precision, and money. "Close the door," she said, not turning around. Nathan did. "Sit." He sat. Celeste finally turned to face him. Her eyes were dark, sharp, and gave away absolutely nothing. "I need a husband," she said. Nathan blinked. "I'm sorry, what?" "A husband, for 1 year. I'll pay you $5 million. The number hung in the air like something physical. Nathan's brain tried to process it and failed. "I don't—" "Let me be clear," Celeste interrupted. "This is a business arrangement, not a romantic one. You will live in my home, attend events with me, and maintain the appearance of a marriage. In exchange, I will pay off all your debts immediately, provide a salary of $200,000, and at the end of the year, you'll receive the $5 million. After that, we divorce quietly, and you go back to your life, considerably wealthier." Nathan's mouth had gone dry. "Why me? You're not interested in climbing the social ladder. You don't have connections to exploit or favors to call in. You have a child, which makes you seem stable and responsible. And frankly, you're desperate enough that I don't think you'll say no, but decent enough that you won't try to extort me later." It should have offended him. Maybe it did, but she wasn't wrong. "Why do you need a husband at all?" he asked. Celeste's expression didn't change, but something flickered behind her eyes. "My father built this company. When he died, he left it to me with one condition. I had to be married before my 31st birthday, or control passes to my brother. I turned 31 in 6 weeks." "And you can't just marry someone you actually want to marry?" "I don't have time for that. I also don't have interest in it. Romance is a liability. This is cleaner." Nathan thought about the eviction notice, about Lily's drawing of the purple building and the dinosaur named Stella, about the fact that he had 7 days to come up with 3 months' rent and no way to do it. "What's the catch?" "No catch. Just terms. We live together. We appear together in public. We maintain the illusion. If you violate the contract or expose the arrangement, you forfeit everything and face legal consequences. If you complete the year successfully, you walk away with enough money to never worry again." "And your brother? He won't figure it out?" "Marcus will absolutely try to figure it out. That's why the contract has to be airtight and the performance has to be flawless." Nathan rubbed his face. This was insane. People didn't actually do this outside of bad movies, except Celeste Rowan was standing in front of him, completely serious, offering him an escape from a life that was actively falling apart. "I need to think about it," he said. "You have until 5 o'clock today. After that, I find someone else." She turned back to the window, a clear dismissal. Nathan stood, his legs unsteady, and walked to the door. "Nathan." He stopped, turned. "I looked into your situation. I know about the medical debt, about your wife, about how hard you've been working to keep things together for your daughter." Her voice was still even, but there was something almost human in it now. "This isn't charity. I need you as much as you need me, but I won't pretend I don't understand what I'm asking you to give up." "What am I giving up?" "Privacy, normalcy, a year of your life in a situation you didn't choose." She paused. "But in exchange, you get a future, a real one." Nathan left without answering. He spent the rest of the day in a fog. He tried to work, but couldn't focus. tried to eat lunch, but his stomach was in knots. He picked Lily up from school and took her to the park, watching her climb on the jungle gym while his mind ran in circles. $5 million. He could pay off everything. Buy a house. Set up a college fund for Lily. Stop living month to month, crisis to crisis. She could have stability, dance classes, a bedroom that was actually hers, not just a hand-me-down space in a cramped apartment. But what kind of example was he setting? Marrying someone for money? Living a lie? Then again, what kind of example was getting evicted? At 4:30, he texted Celeste. "I'm in." 3 dots appeared, then, "Good. Contract signing tomorrow at 9 a.m. Bring your daughter. She'll need to be part of this." Nathan's stomach dropped. Does she have to know the truth? No, she just needs to meet me. If this is going to work, she can't be afraid of me. The next morning, Nathan dressed Lily in her favorite purple dress and tried to explain, in the vaguest terms possible, that they were meeting someone important. "Is it the principal?" Lily asked, suspicious. "No, my boss." "Why?" "Because she wants to meet you." "Why?" Nathan gave up trying to explain and just drove. Celeste's office looked different in the daylight. Less intimidating, maybe, or maybe Nathan was just too numb to care. Lily held his hand as they walked in, her eyes wide. Celeste was waiting. She'd traded the severe suit for something slightly softer, still expensive, still perfect, but less like armor. When she saw Lily, something in her face shifted. "You must be Lily." Lily nodded, suddenly shy. Celeste crouched down, which Nathan hadn't expected. "I like your dress. Purple is a good color." "It's my favorite. Mine too." Lily's eyes lit up. "Really? Really? Do you want to see something cool?" Celeste walked over to her desk and opened a drawer, pulling out a small purple geode. "This is amethyst. It's purple inside, but it starts out looking like a regular rock. You have to break it open to see the color." She handed it to Lily, who turned it over in her hands, fascinated. "You can keep it," Celeste said. "Really?" "Really." Lily looked at Nathan, who nodded. "What do you say?" "Thank you." Celeste stood, her eyes meeting Nathan's. There was something unreadable in her expression. An assistant appeared and offered to show Lily the cool fish tank in the lobby. Lily went happily, clutching her geode. As soon as she was gone, Celeste's demeanor shifted back to business. "The contracts are ready. My lawyer will walk you through everything. If you have questions, ask them now." Nathan had 1,000 questions, but the only one that mattered was, what happens if this doesn't work? It will work, because neither of us can afford for it not to. The lawyer was a severe-looking man in his 60s who spoke in terms Nathan barely understood. There were clauses about confidentiality, cohabitation, public appearances, and grounds for termination. There were stipulations about Lily. She would live with them, attend a private school, have her own room, and everything she needed. There were schedules, expectations, and a very detailed section about what would happen if Nathan violated any part of the agreement. He signed. Celeste signed. And just like that, Nathan Hayes became engaged to a woman he barely knew. The next 2 weeks were a blur. Celeste's team moved with terrifying efficiency. Nathan's debts were paid off within 48 hours. The eviction notice disappeared. His car was suddenly fixed, new tires, oil change, a repair he hadn't even known he needed. A moving company packed up his apartment, and before he fully processed what was happening, he and Lily were standing in the penthouse Celeste called home. It was beautiful in a way that felt almost hostile. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, furniture that looked like it belonged in a museum. Everything white and gray and pristine. "Your room is down the hall," Celeste said, gesturing. "Lily's is next to it. Mine is on the other side of the penthouse. You won't see me much. I work late." Nathan nodded, still holding Lily's hand. His daughter was staring at everything with wide eyes. "Is this where we live now?" she asked. "For a while," Nathan said. "It's so big." "Yeah." Celeste's expression softened slightly. "Lily, would you like to see your room?" She led them down a hallway to a door painted, impossibly, purple. Inside was a bedroom bigger than their entire old apartment. There was a bed shaped like a castle, shelves filled with books, and in the corner, a stuffed dinosaur almost as big as Lily herself. "Her name is Stella," Celeste said. "I thought your friend on the roof might want company." Lily's face lit up in a way Nathan hadn't seen in months. She ran to the dinosaur and hugged it, laughing. Nathan stared at Celeste. "How did you—" "You're not the only one who does research." She turned to leave, then paused. "There's a schedule on your phone. Events we need to attend, meetings with the wedding planner. The engagement announcement goes out tomorrow. After that, things move fast." "Wait, wedding planner? We're getting married in 4 weeks. It needs to look real." And then she was gone, leaving Nathan standing in a purple bedroom in a penthouse he didn't belong in, watching his daughter play with a dinosaur bought by a woman he'd agreed to marry for money. That night, after Lily was asleep, Nathan sat in his new room and stared at his phone. The schedule Celeste mentioned was detailed to the minute. Charity gala on Friday, engagement photo shoot on Sunday, meeting with her family the following Tuesday. He scrolled to the bottom and found a note. "Remember, this is a performance. Stay in character. Don't let anyone see the cracks." Nathan set the phone down and looked out the window at the city lights. Somewhere down there was his old life, his old apartment. The job he'd quietly quit because Celeste had promoted him to a vague executive role that mostly seemed to involve being her husband. He wondered if he'd made a mistake. Then he thought about Lily's face when she saw the dinosaur and decided mistakes were a luxury he couldn't afford. The charity gala was Nathan's first real test. Celeste's stylist had delivered a tuxedo that fit perfectly, and Nathan felt like a fraud the moment he put it on. He'd been to exactly one wedding in a tux before, and he'd rented it from a strip mall. Celeste appeared in the living room wearing a silver gown that probably cost more than his old car. She looked at him, then adjusted his bow tie without asking. "You look fine," she said. "I look like I'm pretending to be someone I'm not." "Good, that's the point." The gala was held at a museum downtown. There were ice sculptures and champagne towers, and people who looked like they'd never worried about rent in their lives. Nathan felt every single one of them staring as he and Celeste walked in together. "Smile," Celeste murmured. "You're happy to be here." Nathan smiled. It felt like a grimace. They made it through the first hour on autopilot, shaking hands, making small talk, pretending Nathan had always belonged in rooms like this. Celeste was good at it. She laughed at jokes that weren't funny, complimented people who clearly didn't like her, and navigated conversations like someone playing chess. Nathan mostly just tried not to spill anything. Then Marcus arrived. Nathan had seen pictures of Celeste's brother, but in person, the resemblance was uncanny. Same dark hair, same sharp features. But where Celeste's intensity felt controlled, Marcus's felt volatile. He moved through the crowd like he owned it, which technically he thought he should. "Sister," Marcus said, his smile cold, "and this must be the fiancé." He said the word like it tasted bad. "Nathan, this is my brother Marcus. Marcus Nathan Hayes." Marcus shook Nathan's hand too hard. "Hayes, I looked you up. Junior designer, single father, quite the Cinderella story." "I'm just lucky," Nathan said evenly. "Lucky." "Right." Marcus turned to Celeste. "I have to say, this is sudden, even for you." "When you know," Celeste said, her voice smooth as glass. "And you know? After what, 8 months of working together?" "Love doesn't follow timelines, Marcus." Marcus laughed, sharp and humorless. "No, but convenience does." Celeste's smile didn't falter, but Nathan felt her tense beside him. "If you'll excuse us, we need to make the rounds." She steered Nathan away before Marcus could respond. "He knows," Nathan said quietly. "He suspects." "That's different. He can't prove anything unless we give him ammunition." "What kind of ammunition?" "The kind where we act like strangers pretending to be in love instead of two people who actually are." Nathan glanced at her. "How do we do that?" Celeste stopped, turned to face him. The ballroom noise faded slightly. "We sell it. Right now." And then she kissed him. It wasn't soft or tentative. It was the kind of kiss designed to make a point, to be seen, to shut down any question about whether they were real. Nathan's brain short-circuited for a second, then caught up. He kissed her back, his hand settling at her waist. and for a moment the performance felt a little too real. When they broke apart, Celeste's expression was unreadable. "That should do it," she said. Nathan nodded, not trusting his voice. They made it through the rest of the night without incident. By the time they got back to the penthouse, Nathan's face hurt from smiling and his feet hurt from shoes that looked good but felt like torture devices. Celeste kicked off her heels the moment the door closed. "You did well." "I didn't do anything." "Exactly. You didn't panic, didn't fumble, didn't make this harder than it needed to be. That's more than I expected." It wasn't much of a compliment, but coming from her, Nathan figured it counted. "Your brother really hates you," he said. "Marcus doesn't hate me. He hates that I'm better at this than he is." Celeste poured herself a drink, whiskey, neat, and didn't offer Nathan one. He thought he'd inherit the company, thought our father would see him as the logical choice. But my father didn't value logic, he valued results. And you get results. "I do." She took a sip. "Marcus gets resentment and a board seat he doesn't deserve." Nathan leaned against the counter. "What happens if he proves the marriage is fake?" "Then I lose the company. He takes over. And everything my father built gets run into the ground within 5 years because Marcus is ambitious but incompetent." "That's a lot of pressure." "It's reality." Celeste set the glass down, "which is why this has to work. No slip-ups, no cracks. We have to be flawless." Nathan thought about the kiss, about how easily she'd turned it on and off, like flipping a switch. "Got it," he said. Over the next few weeks, Nathan learned what flawless meant in Celeste's world. It meant engagement photos where they had to look at each other like they were in love, even though they barely knew each other's favorite colors. It meant dinners with Celeste's mother, a cold, elegant woman who looked at Nathan like he was a stain on expensive fabric. It meant interviews with wedding planners and florists and caterers, all of whom seemed to know they were watching a performance but were too professional to say so. It also meant time with Lily in a world she was adjusting to faster than Nathan expected. She loved her new school, loved her giant bedroom, loved the fact that Celeste had quietly stocked the penthouse with books about dinosaurs and science kits and art supplies. "Why is Miss Celeste so nice?" Lily asked one night while Nathan tucked her in. "She's not Miss Celeste, Lil. She's going to be my wife. You can call her Celeste." "But why is she nice?" Nathan didn't know how to answer that, because Celeste wasn't nice, exactly. She was distant and formal and treated their arrangement like a military operation. But she'd also made sure Lily had everything she needed. Had quietly arranged for a child psychologist after Nathan mentioned Lily, sometimes had nightmares. Had never once made Lily feel like an inconvenience. "She cares," Nathan said finally. "In her own way." Lily seemed satisfied with that and fell asleep clutching her amethyst. The wedding was 4 days away when Marcus made his next move. Nathan was at the penthouse alone, Celeste was at the office. Lily was at a friend's house when the doorbell rang. He opened it to find Marcus standing there, smiling like a predator. "Nathan, hope I'm not interrupting. Celeste isn't here." "I know. I wanted to talk to you." Every instinct told Nathan to close the door, but he stepped aside. Marcus walked in, looking around the penthouse like he was cataloging everything. "Nice place. Must be quite the upgrade from that one bedroom in Capitol Hill." Nathan didn't react. Marcus turned, his smile sharpening. "I'm going to be direct. I know this marriage is fake. I don't know the details yet, but I will. And when I do, I'm going to take everything from her. The company, the reputation, all of it." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you seem like a decent guy. You've got a kid. You're in over your head. So here's my offer. Walk away now. I'll pay you double whatever she's paying and you disappear. No mess, no scandal. You go back to your life." Nathan crossed his arms. "And if I say no, then you go down with her. And trust me, when Celeste falls, she falls hard. You want your daughter to see that?" For a long moment, Nathan said nothing. Then, "Get out." Marcus's smile faded. "You're making a mistake." "Maybe, but it's mine to make." After Marcus left, Nathan stood in the empty penthouse and wondered if he'd just made everything worse. He didn't tell Celeste about the visit. Not that night, not the next day. He told himself it was because he didn't want to worry her, but really, he wasn't sure what it meant that he'd turned Marcus down without hesitation. The wedding was small by billionaire standards, only 150 guests. It was held at an estate outside the city, all white flowers and string lights and carefully curated elegance. Nathan stood at the altar in another perfect tux, watching Celeste walk down the aisle in a dress that looked like it cost more than his entire previous life. She was beautiful, untouchable, and in about 3 minutes, she was going to be his wife. The ceremony was short. They exchanged vows that had been written by someone else, slipped on rings that meant nothing, and kissed in front of people who were mostly there to see if this whole thing would fall apart. It didn't. The reception was a blur of champagne and speeches and a first dance that Celeste had insisted they practice. Nathan held her and moved through the steps, aware of every eye on them. "We did it," Celeste murmured. "Yeah. 1 year, then you're free." Nathan looked at her. "What if I don't want to be free?" Celeste's expression flickered, surprise maybe, or something close to it. But before she could answer, the music shifted and people applauded, and the moment was gone. Later, after the guests had left and Lily had fallen asleep in the car on the way back to the penthouse, Nathan carried her inside and put her to bed. When he came back out, Celeste was standing by the window, still in her wedding dress, looking out at the city. "Thank you," she said quietly. "For what?" "For not running, for doing this, for making it believable." Nathan walked over, stood beside her. "Marcus came to see me, offered me double to walk away." Celeste's jaw tightened. "And? I told him to get out." She turned to look at him, really look at him, for the first time in weeks. "Why?" Nathan shrugged. "Maybe I'm just stubborn, or maybe I'm starting to think this whole thing isn't as fake as we're pretending." Celeste didn't answer, but she didn't look away either, and for the first time since this whole arrangement started, Nathan wondered if he'd signed up for something a lot more complicated than a business deal. The morning after the wedding, Nathan woke up in a bed that still felt too big, in a room that still felt like someone else's, and for a solid 30 seconds he forgot he was married. Then he saw the ring on his finger, platinum, expensive, fake, and remembered everything. He found Celeste in the kitchen, already dressed for work despite it being 7 in the morning on a Sunday. She was drinking coffee and reading something on her tablet, her hair pulled back, her expression focused in that way that meant she'd already been awake for hours. "There's coffee," she said without looking up. "Thanks." Nathan poured himself a cup and leaned against the counter. The silence stretched between them, not quite uncomfortable but not easy either. They were married now, legally bound, and yet they still moved around each other like strangers. "I have to go to the office," Celeste said finally. "There's a contract negotiation that can't wait." "On a Sunday?" "Business doesn't care about the calendar." She closed the tablet and looked at him. "Lily's still asleep. There's food in the fridge. My mother is expecting us for dinner tonight at 6. Don't be late." "Your mother hates me. She hates everyone. Don't take it personally." Celeste grabbed her bag and headed for the door, then paused. "You did well yesterday. At the wedding, it looked real. Maybe that's because some of it was." She studied him for a moment, her expression unreadable. "Don't confuse performance with reality, Nathan. That's how people get hurt." Then she was gone, and Nathan was alone in the too quiet penthouse, wondering how someone could warn you about getting hurt while sounding completely invulnerable herself. Dinner at Eleanor Rowan's estate was exactly as painful as Nathan expected. The house was massive, old money wrapped in marble and crystal, the kind of place where every piece of furniture had a story, and none of them involved normal people. Eleanor herself was in her 60s, perfectly preserved in the way only the very wealthy managed, and she looked at Nathan like he was a science experiment that had gone wrong. "So Nathan," she said over the first course, which was some kind of soup Nathan couldn't identify. "Celeste tells me you were a designer before all this." "I still am," Nathan said. Eleanor's smile was sharp. "Of course, though I imagine your role at the company has changed somewhat." "Mother," Celeste said quietly, "I'm simply curious. It's not every day someone marries into this family from such humble circumstances." Lily, who was sitting next to Nathan and had been unusually quiet, looked up. "My daddy's a good designer. He made me a poster for my science project and I got an A." Eleanor's expression softened slightly. Though whether from actual warmth or just surprise that the child had spoken, Nathan couldn't tell. How lovely. And Celeste got me a dinosaur, Dutty, Lily continued, warming up now. Her name is Stella, and she's purple, and she's the best thing ever. Celeste has always been generous, Eleanor said, though her tone suggested this wasn't entirely a compliment. Marcus arrived halfway through the main course, which was salmon that tasted like it had been flown in from somewhere expensive. He kissed his mother's cheek, nodded at Celeste, and completely ignored Nathan. Sorry I'm late. Board meeting ran long. On a Sunday? Celeste asked. Some of us actually work on the weekends instead of playing house. The temperature in the room dropped about 10 degrees. Nathan saw Celeste's hand tighten around her fork, but her face remained calm. How is the merger coming along? Eleanor asked Marcus, clearly trying to redirect. Slowly. But then I'm not the CEO, so I have limited authority to push things through. Marcus looked at Celeste, though perhaps that will change soon. Not likely, Celeste said. We'll see. Lily tugged on Nathan's sleeve. I don't feel good. Nathan immediately shifted his attention to his daughter. She did look pale, her face a little flushed. He touched her forehead, warm but not burning. Excuse us, Nathan said, standing and helping Lily up. I think we need to call it a night. Eleanor looked almost relieved. Of course. Children do get tired. Celeste stood as well. I'll drive you back. You should stay, Nathan said. Finish dinner with your family. You are my family now. Celeste's voice was level, but there was something underneath it that made Marcus's smile falter. Mother, Marcus, we'll see you next week. In the car, Lily curled up in the back seat while Nathan sat in front, watching Celeste navigate the dark roads with the same precision she brought to everything else. You didn't have to leave, Nathan said. Yes, I did. My mother was 3 minutes away from asking about our prenup, and Marcus was looking for any excuse to make a scene. Do we have a prenup? Of course, but it's not the kind they think it is. Lily made a small sound from the back seat. Nathan turned to check on her. She was asleep, her face still flushed. She's warm, Nathan said. There's a thermometer in the bathroom, children's medicine in the cabinet. Celeste glanced at him. I had the house stocked when you moved in. You didn't have to do that. She's 6. 6-year-olds get sick. It's not complicated. But it was, Nathan thought, because Celeste was supposed to be cold and distant and treating this like a business arrangement, and yet she'd thought about children's medicine and purple bedrooms and dinosaurs named Stella. Back at the penthouse, Nathan got Lily settled and took her temperature, 99.2, just barely a fever. He gave her medicine and water and sat with her until she fell asleep properly. When he came out, Celeste was still awake, sitting on the couch with a glass of wine and a stack of papers. She okay? Celeste asked. Just tired, maybe coming down with something. I'll have Dr. Sharma come by tomorrow if she's not better. You have a doctor who makes house calls? I have a doctor on retainer. It's not the same thing. Nathan sat down on the other end of the couch. Your family really doesn't like me. My family doesn't like anyone who threatens their sense of order. You're an outsider. That makes you dangerous. I'm a guy who makes ads for dentist offices. I'm the least dangerous person in that room. Celeste looked at him over the rim of her wine glass. You're more dangerous than you think. You got me to leave a dinner with my mother and brother. That's not something I do. Why did you? She was quiet for a long moment. Because watching my mother condescend to you and Marcus plot against me while pretending to eat salmon felt less important than making sure a 6-year-old got home safely. That's called being a decent human. In my family, it's called weakness. Nathan shook his head. Your family is wrong. Celeste's expression shifted, something almost vulnerable crossing her face before she locked it down again. Maybe, but they're the family I have, and they're not going away. The first month of marriage settled into a routine that felt surreal in its normalcy. Nathan got Lily ready for school every morning while Celeste was already at the office. He'd work from the penthouse. His executive role turned out to be mostly reviewing other people's designs and attending occasional meetings where he nodded and pretended to understand business strategy. He'd pick Lily up, help with homework, make dinner. Sometimes Celeste would come home in time to eat with them. Most nights she didn't. When she did, Lily would tell her about school, about her friends, about the book she was reading, and Celeste would listen in a way that seemed genuine, asking follow-up questions and remembering details from previous conversations. It was strange, watching someone so controlled with adults become almost careful with his daughter, like she wasn't quite sure how to be around children but was determined to figure it out. "Did you ever want kids?" Nathan asked one night after Lily had gone to bed. They were in the living room, Celeste working on her laptop, Nathan pretending to read but mostly just watching her. "I never thought about it," Celeste said. "My father expected me to take over the company. Personal life was always secondary." "That's not an answer." She closed the laptop. "I don't know. Maybe. But wanting something and having the capacity for it are different things. You're good with Lily. I buy her things and ask her about dinosaurs. That's not parenting. It's more than a lot of people do." Celeste stood, walked to the window. It was her default position when conversations got too personal, distance and glass between her and the world. "My father used to say that emotions are liabilities in business, that if you let people see what you care about, they'll use it against you." She was quiet for a moment. He was right. Marcus knows I care about the company, so he threatens it. "My mother knows I care about my father's legacy, so she questions whether I'm worthy of it." "What about people you care about, not things?" "That's even more dangerous." Nathan joined her at the window. The city spread out below them, all light and motion and noise. "That sounds lonely," he said. "Lonely is safe. Safe is overrated." Celeste turned to look at him. They were close enough that Nathan could see the exhaustion she usually hid so well, the weight of carrying everything alone. "This arrangement," she said quietly, "it works because we both understand what it is. If we start pretending it's something else, who says it's pretending?" The question hung between them. Celeste's expression shifted through several things Nathan couldn't name before settling back into control. "Don't," she said. "Don't what?" "Don't make this complicated. We have 11 months left. Let's not ruin it by confusing convenience with something real." She walked away before Nathan could respond, disappearing into her wing of the penthouse and leaving him standing at the window, wondering when exactly he'd started thinking of this as more than a contract. The first real crack in their carefully constructed facade came 3 weeks later at a company gala. It was one of those events Celeste was obligated to attend. Potential investors, board members, people who needed to see that Rowan Creative Group was thriving under her leadership. Nathan wore another tux. Celeste wore red this time, a dress that made every head turn when she walked in. They played their roles, his hand at the small of her back, her leaning into him during conversations, the occasional touch that looked affectionate but was really just choreography. Marcus was there, of course, with a date who looked bored and expensive. He spent the first hour watching them like a hawk, clearly looking for inconsistencies. "He's trying to catch us slipping," Nathan murmured during a slow dance. "Then don't slip," Celeste said. "I'm not the one who looks like she's attending a funeral. This is my happy face." Terrifying. The corner of Celeste's mouth twitched, almost a smile. "You're getting better at this. The small talk, the performance. Maybe I'm a natural liar, or maybe you're starting to believe your own performance." Before Nathan could figure out what that meant, someone tapped Celeste on the shoulder. A man in his 50s, silver-haired and smiling in a way that didn't reach his eyes. "Celeste, how wonderful to see you thriving." Celeste's entire body went rigid. "Richard. And this must be the husband. Nathan, is it? Richard Vance? I used to work with Celeste's father." Nathan shook his hand, feeling the tension radiating off Celeste. "Richard was the CFO before my father fired him for embezzlement," Celeste said, her voice like ice. Richard's smile didn't falter. A misunderstanding that was never proven. Water under the bridge, as they say. He looked at Nathan. "I hope you know what you're getting into. Celeste has a tendency to use people and then discard them when they're no longer useful." "Funny," Nathan said. "I heard you were the one who got discarded after stealing from the company." Richard's smile finally cracked. Careful. You're out of your depth here. Maybe, but I'm a good swimmer. Celeste's hand tightened on Nathan's arm. A warning or a thank you, he wasn't sure. Richard gave them both a cold look and walked away. You didn't have to do that, Celeste said once they were alone again. Yeah, I did. He was being a jackass. He was also making a point that I have enemies, that anyone close to me becomes a target. I can handle targets. Celeste looked at him, really looked at him, and something in her expression shifted. Why are you doing this? Defending you? Because we're married. Isn't that the whole point? The point is the appearance of marriage, not actually defending me against people like Richard Vance. Maybe I missed that clause in the contract. This time she did smile, small and genuine and gone too quickly. You're either very brave or very stupid. Can't it be both? They made it through the rest of the gala without incident, but something had changed. Nathan felt it in the way Celeste stayed closer to him, the way she didn't pull away when he kept his hand on her back even when no one was watching. It was small, barely noticeable, but it was there. On the drive home, Celeste was quiet. Not the usual focused silence, but something heavier. Richard was right about one thing, she said finally. People close to me do become targets. Marcus will use you if he can. My mother will judge you. Business rivals will try to find leverage. I know. And you're okay with that? Nathan thought about it. I grew up with nothing. Lost my wife to cancer while drowning in medical debt. Raised a kid alone while working 60 hours a week and still couldn't make rent. Your world has different problems, but problems are problems. At least now I can afford to deal with them. That's very practical. I'm a practical guy. Celeste was quiet for another moment. Lily asked me today if I was staying. Nathan's chest tightened. What did you say? I told her that I live here, that I'm married to you, but she asked if I was staying, like if I was going to be around. Celeste's hands gripped the steering wheel. I didn't know how to answer that. What do you want to answer? I don't know. This was supposed to be simple. A year, a contract, an exchange. But now there's a 6-year-old asking me if I'm staying, and you're defending me against people you don't even know, and I don't... She stopped, took a breath. I don't know how to do this. Nathan reached over, gently touched her hand. Nobody knows how to do this. We're making it up as we go. That's not how I operate. I know, but maybe that's okay. Celeste pulled into the parking garage, turned off the car. In the dim light, she looked younger, less certain. The contract says 11 more months, she said quietly. I remember. What happens if I don't want it to end? The question hit Nathan like a physical thing. He turned to face her fully. Then we tear up the contract and figure out what this is without it. And if it falls apart, then it falls apart. But at least it'll be real. Celeste looked at him, and for the first time since this whole thing started, Nathan saw something in her eyes that looked like hope. Fragile, uncertain, but there. I'm scared, she admitted. Me too. She leaned across the console and kissed him. It wasn't like the kiss at the gala, designed for an audience. It was messy and uncertain, and entirely theirs. When they broke apart, Celeste's control was cracked just enough that Nathan could see the person underneath. We should go inside, she said. Yeah. But neither of them moved for a long moment, sitting in the quiet car, holding on to something that felt more fragile and more important than any contract. The next morning, Nathan woke up to find Celeste already gone, a note on the counter saying she had an early meeting. But next to the note was a coffee cup, still warm, and a sticky note in her precise handwriting. Thank you for last night. It was small, but it felt like everything. Over the next few weeks, something shifted. Celeste started coming home earlier. Not every night, but more often. She'd have dinner with Nathan and Lily, ask about their days, occasionally even laugh at something ridiculous Lily said. The walls she'd built so carefully started to develop cracks, and Nathan could see the exhausted, lonely woman underneath the CEO facade. They started talking more. Real conversations, not just logistics and schedules. Celeste told him about her father, about the pressure of inheriting a company at 25, about how she'd never had time to figure out who she was outside of work. Nathan told her about Sarah, about the good years before the cancer, about how he'd learned to be both parents to Lily and still felt like he was failing most days. "You're not failing," Celeste said one night. They were on the couch, a rare moment where neither of them was working. "Lily is smart and kind and curious. That doesn't happen by accident. She gets that from her mom. She gets some of it from you too. You just don't see it." Nathan looked at her. "You're different than when we started this." "Different how?" "Less. Armored." Celeste considered that. "Maybe I'm just tired of wearing armor around you. It's exhausting. So take it off." "I'm trying." She reached for his hand, laced their fingers together. It was such a simple gesture, but it felt monumental. Nathan squeezed gently. "What are we doing?" he asked. "I don't know, but I don't want to stop." The kiss that followed wasn't planned or performed. It was just them, alone, finally admitting that somewhere along the way the fake had become real. They didn't sleep together that night. Celeste wasn't ready, and Nathan wasn't going to push. But they fell asleep on the couch, tangled together. And when Nathan woke up at 3 a.m. to find Celeste still there, her head on his chest, he thought maybe this could actually work. Then his phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Enjoy it while it lasts. I know what you are." Nathan's blood went cold. He carefully extracted himself from Celeste, went to the kitchen and called the number. It went straight to voicemail. Marcus. It had to be. The next message came an hour later. "Cute kid. Be a shame if she ended up in the middle of a scandal." Nathan's hands shook. He wanted to wake Celeste, to tell her, but she looked so peaceful for once. Instead, he took a screenshot and sent it to the lawyer who'd handled their contract. The response came in the morning. "This is harassment, possibly blackmail. Document everything. Tell Mrs. Rowan immediately." Nathan showed Celeste over breakfast. She read the messages, her face going cold and controlled in a way Nathan hadn't seen in weeks. "He's escalating," she said. "What do we do? We don't give him what he wants. He's trying to scare you into leaving or making a mistake. We do neither. He threatened Lily." "I know." Celeste's voice was hard. "And that was his mistake. Because now this isn't just business." She made 3 phone calls in rapid succession. To her lawyer, to her head of security, and to someone named James who apparently specialized in making problems disappear. By noon, there was a security detail assigned to Lily's school, cameras installed in the penthouse, and a cease and desist letter on its way to Marcus. "This is insane," Nathan said, watching it all unfold. "This is my world, and you're in it now, which means Lily is too. I won't let him touch her." The fierceness in Celeste's voice did something to Nathan. This wasn't the controlled CEO or the uncertain woman learning to take off her armor. This was someone ready to go to war for his daughter. "Thank you," he said. Celeste looked at him. "You don't thank me for this. This is what family does." The word hung between them. Family. Not contract, not arrangement. Family. "Is that what we are?" Nathan asked. "I don't know what else to call it." That night, after Lily was in bed and the security team had done their sweep, and everything was as safe as it could be, Nathan found Celeste in her office, staring at her computer with an expression that looked lost. "Hey," he said gently. She looked up. "Hey. You okay?" "Marcus is my brother, my only sibling, and he's threatening a child to get to me." She closed the laptop. "How did we get here?" Nathan sat on the edge of her desk. "Your father's will created this situation. Marcus is just showing you who he really is. I keep thinking I should have seen it sooner, that I should have protected you both better. You're protecting us now. That's what matters." Celeste stood, moved into Nathan's space. "I meant what I said this morning. This isn't just business anymore. You and Lily, you're not part of a contract. You're—" "What?" "Mine." The word came out fierce, possessive. "And I don't let people hurt what's mine." Nathan pulled her close, felt her tension start to ease. "We're going to get through this." "You don't know that." "No, but I believe it anyway." They stood like that for a long time, holding each other in the quiet office, while outside the city moved on and Marcus plotted and the clock counted down toward whatever came next. But for now, in this moment, they had each other. And that felt like enough. The following week brought a new complication. Eleanor requested their presence at the family estate for a weekend retreat. Not a request, really, more of a summons. She does this twice a year, Celeste explained while packing. Brings the family together, pretends we're functional, makes everyone miserable. Can we say no? Not if we want to maintain appearances. And with Marcus already suspicious, missing this would be ammunition. So they went. Nathan, Celeste, and Lily, driving 2 hours outside the city to a sprawling estate that looked like something out of a period drama. Eleanor greeted them at the door with the warmth of a corporate reception. Celeste, Nathan, and little Lily, how domestic. Marcus was already there, along with his date from the gala, a woman named Simone who had the look of someone who'd been paid to smile through the weekend. Also present were 2 of Eleanor's sisters, both of whom looked at Nathan like he was tracking mud on expensive carpets. The first dinner was brutal. Eleanor asked pointed questions about Nathan's family background, his education, his career trajectory. Marcus made snide comments disguised as jokes. Lily asked if she could be excused and Nathan wanted to join her. "This is barbaric," Nathan muttered to Celeste as they got ready for bed in the guest room they'd been assigned. One bed, because appearances. "This is my family." "Your family is cruel." "I know." Celeste sat on the edge of the bed, looking defeated. "I'm sorry you have to deal with this." Nathan sat beside her. "I'm not sorry I'm here. I just wish they weren't terrible." "They're not going to change. Eleanor raised us to believe emotion was weakness and power was everything. Marcus absorbed that completely. I tried to reject it, but I'm not sure how successful I've been." "You're successful enough. You feel things, even if you don't always show it. That's more than they can say." Celeste leaned her head on his shoulder. "What did I do to deserve you?" "Offered me $5 million. She laughed, actually laughed, and the sound felt like a small victory in enemy territory. They fell asleep tangled together, and for a few hours Nathan forgot they were in a house full of people trying to break them apart. The next day, Eleanor announced a family meeting to discuss the future of the company, which meant Marcus was going to make his move. They gathered in the library, all dark wood and leather-bound books no one had read. Eleanor sat at the head of the table like a judge. Marcus looked smug. Celeste looked ready for battle. "I've been reviewing the terms of your father's will," Marcus started, "and I have some concerns about the legitimacy of Celeste's marriage." "Here we go," Celeste said quietly. "Specifically, I find it suspicious that she married an employee mere weeks before her deadline. It suggests the marriage is a legal maneuver rather than a genuine relationship." Eleanor looked at Celeste. "Is there truth to this?" "My marriage is legal and valid. Nathan and I got married because we wanted to, not because of Father's arbitrary requirements." "Arbitrary?" Marcus leaned forward. "Father wanted to ensure the company stayed in capable hands. He believed marriage indicated stability, commitment. But what stability is there in a rushed wedding to someone so clearly beneath you?" Nathan felt Celeste tense beside him, but before she could respond, he spoke up. "You know what's beneath her?" Nathan said, his voice level but hard. "A brother who threatens children to get what he wants. That sent me anonymous texts about my daughter. That's willing to destroy his own sister because he can't handle that she's better at this than he'll ever be." The room went silent. Marcus's face flushed red. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Yeah, you do. And so does our lawyer, and the security team, and probably the police once we decide to press charges." Eleanor's eyes narrowed. "Marcus, what is he talking about?" "Nothing. He's lying." Nathan pulled out his phone, showed Eleanor the screenshots. Her expression didn't change, but something cold settled into her eyes. "You threatened a child," Eleanor said quietly. "I was trying to protect our family's interests by threatening a 6-year-old girl." Eleanor stood. "Get out. Mother. Out. Now. I'll deal with you later." Marcus looked between his mother and Celeste, then stormed out, Simone trailing behind him looking relieved to escape. Eleanor turned to Celeste and Nathan. "I owe you both an apology." "You don't have to," Celeste started. "I do. I raised Marcus to believe power justified any action. Clearly I was wrong." She looked at Nathan. And I've been unkind to you because I assumed you were taking advantage of my daughter. I see now that I was mistaken. It wasn't warm, it wasn't even particularly friendly, but it was real, and coming from Eleanor, that meant something. Thank you, Nathan said. Eleanor nodded, then left, and Nathan and Celeste were alone in the library. Well, Celeste said, that went better than expected. Your family is exhausting. I know. Want to leave? Desperately. They packed up Lily and were on the road within an hour, leaving the estate and its dysfunction behind. In the back seat, Lily chattered about the gardens she'd explored, oblivious to the drama. In the front, Nathan and Celeste drove in comfortable silence. Thank you, Celeste said quietly, for defending me, for defending Lily, for not running. Where would I run to? Anywhere. This isn't what you signed up for. Nathan reached over, took her hand. Maybe not, but it's what I want. Celeste squeezed his fingers. Even with my terrible family and my unstable brother and my mother who barely tolerates you? Even then, you're insane. Probably, but I'm your kind of insane. Celeste smiled, real and unguarded, and Nathan thought maybe they were going to make it after all. They made it back to the penthouse just after midnight, Lily asleep in Nathan's arms as he carried her from the car. The security team did their sweep while Celeste unlocked the door, and for a moment everything felt almost normal. Almost like they were just a family coming home from a trip, tired and ready for their own beds. Nathan tucked Lily in, kissed her forehead, and found Celeste in the kitchen pouring 2 glasses of wine. She handed him one without a word, and they stood there in the dim light, letting the tension of the weekend drain away. Eleanor actually apologized, Nathan said finally. I didn't think she was capable of that. She's not usually. Celeste took a long drink. You scared her, or impressed her, maybe both. I just told the truth. In my family, that's the most dangerous thing you can do. She set her glass down, turned to face him fully. Marcus isn't going to stop. You know that, right? Getting kicked out of the house just makes him angrier. So what's he going to do? Whatever he can to prove we're not real, to find evidence that this marriage is a contract. Celeste's jaw tightened, and if he can't find evidence, he'll manufacture it. Nathan moved closer, set his own glass aside. Then we don't give him anything to work with. We've been careful. Careful isn't enough anymore. We need to be... What? Nathan hesitated, then said it. Real. Completely real. No more separate wings of the penthouse. No more careful distance. If we're doing this, we do it all the way. Celeste's eyes searched his face. You're talking about more than appearances. Yeah, I am. The silence stretched between them, heavy with everything they'd been dancing around for weeks. Finally, Celeste reached up and touched his face, her palm warm against his cheek. I'm terrified, she admitted. Of what? That I'll mess this up, that I'll hurt you, that I don't know how to be what you and Lily need. Nathan covered her hand with his. You're already what we need. You just don't see it yet. She kissed him then, and it felt different from every other kiss they'd shared. Not performative, not tentative, just honest. When they broke apart, Celeste's control had cracked wide open. Stay with me tonight, she said quietly. Not in the guest room. With me. Are you sure? No, but I'm doing it anyway. They ended up in Celeste's room, a space Nathan had never actually been inside. It was surprisingly sparse for someone so wealthy. Clean lines, minimal furniture, nothing personal except a single photo on the nightstand. Celeste as a child, maybe 8 or 9, with a man who had to be her father. Both of them unsmiling, formal, like even family photos were a business obligation. That's the only picture I have of him, Celeste said, following Nathan's gaze. He wasn't big on sentimentality. You look like him. I know, Marcus hates that. She kicked off her shoes, suddenly looking exhausted. He used to say I was father's favorite, like that was some prize worth winning. Nathan sat on the edge of the bed. Was it? Being his favorite meant being held to impossible standards, meant never being good enough, because good enough wasn't excellent, and excellent wasn't perfect. She sat beside him. I spent my whole childhood trying to earn approval that never came. And now he's gone, and I'm still trying. You don't have to prove anything to a dead man. Tell that to my brain. They undressed quietly, separately. No grand seduction or moment of dramatic revelation. Just two tired people who'd been carrying too much for too long, finally letting themselves be vulnerable. When they slid under the covers, Celeste curled into Nathan's side like she'd been doing it for years instead of just deciding tonight was the night she'd try. I don't know how to do this, she whispered into the darkness. Do what? Be close to someone. Let someone see me without the armor. Nathan pulled her closer. You're doing fine. I'm scared I'll wake up tomorrow and panic and ruin everything. Then we'll deal with it tomorrow. Right now, just be here. She was quiet for a long moment, then, I think I'm falling in love with you. Nathan's heart did something complicated in his chest. Yeah? Yeah, and it's terrifying. I think I'm falling in love with you too, and it's the least terrifying thing that's happened in the last 6 months. Celeste laughed, the sound muffled against his shoulder. You have terrible taste in what counts as scary. Probably, but I have good taste in women. She lifted her head, looked at him in the dim light filtering through the curtains. Promise me something. What? If this falls apart, if I'm too broken or too difficult or too much, promise you'll tell me. Don't just disappear. I'm not going anywhere, Celeste. You don't know that. I know that I've been broke, widowed, and barely holding my life together, and somehow you offering me a fake marriage was the best thing that ever happened to me. So yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm staying. She kissed him again, deeper this time, and what followed was messy and real and nothing like the perfect romance movies promised. It was fumbling and nervous laughter and whispered questions and trying to figure out what the other person liked. It was human and imperfect and exactly what they both needed. Afterward, Celeste fell asleep with her head on Nathan's chest, and he lay awake for a long time thinking about how his life had become unrecognizable in the best possible way. The next morning, Nathan woke up alone. For a panicked second, he thought Celeste had done exactly what she'd feared, woken up and run. Then he heard the shower running and relaxed. She hadn't fled. She was just showering. When she emerged, wrapped in a towel and looking uncertain, Nathan smiled. Morning? Morning. Celeste stood awkwardly by the bathroom door. So, that happened. Regrets? No, maybe. I don't know. She sat on the edge of the bed. I'm not good at this part. The morning after part. There's no script. We just figure it out. I'm better with scripts. Nathan reached for her hand. How about we start with breakfast? Lily's probably awake and wondering where we are. Together? Yeah, together. Something in Celeste's face softened. Okay. They found Lily in the kitchen, already dressed and eating cereal, the security guard who'd stayed overnight reading a book at the counter. Morning, kiddo, Nathan said. You slept in Celeste's room, Lily observed, because 6-year-olds noticed everything. Nathan and Celeste exchanged a glance. Yeah, Nathan said. Is that okay? Lily shrugged, spooning more cereal into her mouth. I guess. Are you guys actually married now? Like for real? We've been married for real, Celeste said carefully. No, I mean like how Emma's parents are married. They share a room and kiss and stuff. Nathan felt his face heat up. Yeah, Lil, like that. Okay, can I have a puppy? The subject change was so abrupt that Nathan laughed. What? Emma has a puppy, and we live in a big house now. Can we get one? Celeste looked slightly panicked. I've never had a pet. See, that's why we should get one, so you can learn. Lily's logic was unassailable in the way only a child's could be. We'll think about it, Nathan said, which was parent speak for probably not, but I don't want to argue right now. After Lily left for school, Nathan and Celeste found themselves alone in the too-quiet penthouse. Celeste had a meeting at 10, but for now they had an hour of just existing in the same space. She's right, you know, Celeste said, about us being actually married now. Does that freak you out? Yes, but also no. She poured herself coffee. I never thought I'd want this. The domestic thing. Someone else's kid asking me about puppies. Waking up next to the same person every day. And now? Now I'm starting to think maybe I do want it. With you. With Lily. She looked at him over the rim of her cup. That's new. New is good. New is terrifying. Nathan crossed to her, wrapped his arms around her waist. You keep saying that, but you're still here, still trying. Because leaving would be worse. Celeste set the cup down, turned in his arms. I spent so long thinking I didn't need anyone, that I was better off alone, in control, untouchable. And then you showed up in your cheap suit with your eviction notice and your daughter, and suddenly being alone felt like the worst possible option. Gee. For what it's worth, I'm glad I showed up. Me too. They stood like that for a while, just holding each other, until Celeste's phone buzzed with a reminder about her meeting. She pulled away reluctantly. I have to go. Conference call with potential investors. Knock 'em dead. Always do. She grabbed her bag, then paused at the door. Nathan? Yeah? Last night was good. I just wanted to say that. It was. After she left, Nathan found himself smiling like an idiot while cleaning up breakfast dishes. Somewhere in the last few months, his fake marriage had become the most real thing in his life, and he wasn't sure when exactly that had happened. But he wasn't complaining. The peace lasted exactly 3 more days. Nathan was picking Lily up from school when his phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. Mr. Hayes, this is Jennifer Morrison from the Daily Chronicle. I'm working on a story about Celeste Rowan, and I'd love to get a comment from you about your marriage. Nathan's stomach dropped. No comment. I understand you met while you were working as a junior designer at her company. Some might say there's a power imbalance there. Did you feel pressured into the relationship? No, and I'm not answering any more questions. What about the financial arrangement? Our sources say Mrs. Rowan paid off significant debts right around the time of your engagement. Some might call that suspicious timing. Nathan hung up. His hands were shaking. He called Celeste immediately. We have a problem. 20 minutes later, Nathan was in Celeste's office with her PR team, lawyer, and head of security. The journalist had apparently been digging for weeks, talking to former employees, reviewing public records, building a story that painted their marriage as a business transaction. How bad is it? Nathan asked. James, the head of security, pulled up his laptop. Bad. She has your employment records, your debt history, the timeline of when everything was paid off. She's talked to 3 former employees who are willing to say on record that the marriage seemed sudden and convenient. Can we kill the story? Celeste asked. Not legally. It's speculation, but it's based on facts. We can threaten a lawsuit for defamation, but that might just make it worse. The PR director, a woman named Angela, looked grim. The best move is to get ahead of it. Do an interview, control the narrative. Absolutely not, Celeste said. I don't explain my personal life to tabloids. With all due respect, Mrs. Rowan, your personal life is about to become public whether you like it or not. At least this way you get to tell your version. Nathan spoke up. What if we just told the truth? Everyone turned to look at him. The truth? Angela said carefully. Not the whole truth, but close enough. Yeah, I was working for Celeste when we met. Yeah, I had financial problems, but we fell in love anyway. It wasn't some calculated business move. It was just 2 people who found each other at the right time. That could work, Angela said slowly. Humanize it. Make it a love story instead of a scandal. Celeste looked at Nathan. You'd be opening yourself up to scrutiny. Questions about Sarah, about your past, about everything. I know. You don't have to do this. Yeah, I do. Because if I don't, they'll write whatever story they want. At least this way we have some control. The interview was scheduled for 2 days later. A major network, prime time, the kind of exposure that would either kill the scandal or make it 10 times worse. Nathan spent those 2 days practicing answers with the PR team, trying not to throw up, and reassuring Lily that everything was fine even though he wasn't sure it was. The night before the interview, Celeste found him on the balcony, staring out at the city. "You're nervous," she said, terrified. She stood beside him, close enough that their shoulders touched. "We can still cancel. Say I'm sick, reschedule indefinitely." "That'll just make it worse." "Probably." Celeste was quiet for a moment. "I'm sorry you have to do this. This is my world, my mess. You shouldn't have to clean it up. We're married. Your mess is my mess." "That's not how this was supposed to work." Nathan turned to face her. "Nothing about this has worked how it was supposed to. We were supposed to fake it for a year and walk away. Instead, we're doing interviews about our love story, and your brother is trying to destroy us. And I'm standing here thinking this is still the best decision I ever made." Celeste's eyes shone in the dim light. "How are you so sure?" "Because I wake up next to you every morning and it feels right. Because Lily asks you questions about dinosaurs, and you actually look up the answers. Because you pretend you don't care about things, but you care so much it scares you." He took her hands. "You're not perfect. Neither am I. But we work. What if the interview ruins everything? Then we'll deal with it, together." The interview was worse than Nathan expected. The host was friendly but relentless, asking about the timeline, the debt, how they'd managed to fall in love so quickly. Celeste handled it with her usual control, answering questions with just enough warmth to seem human, but not enough to seem weak. Nathan tried to follow her lead, but he'd never been good at performing under pressure. When the host asked about Sarah, about whether he'd married Celeste for financial security, something in him cracked. "Look," he said, abandoning the practice script. "Did Celeste help me financially? Yes. Was I desperate when we met? Absolutely. But you know what? She was desperate too. She had a deadline breathing down her neck, and a brother trying to steal her company, and everyone telling her she couldn't do it alone." He looked at Celeste, who was watching him with an unreadable expression. "We helped each other. That's what people do when they care about someone. And yeah, maybe it started as something practical, but it became real. She's real. And I'm not going to sit here and let you turn our marriage into some scandal when it's the best thing that's happened to either of us." The host blinked, clearly not expecting that level of honesty. "So you're saying this is a genuine relationship?" "I'm saying I love my wife. And if that makes good TV, great. If it doesn't, I don't really care." The interview wrapped shortly after that. In the car on the way home, Celeste was silent. Nathan couldn't read her expression. "Did I mess that up?" he asked finally. "No." "You're being quiet. Because I'm trying not to cry and I don't cry on camera, so I'm waiting until we get home." Nathan reached for her hand. "The good kind of crying or the bad kind?" "I don't know. Both maybe." She looked at him. "You meant it. What you said about loving me." "Of course I meant it. I've never had someone defend me like that, fight for me, choose me." "Get used to it." Celeste did cry when they got home, quietly, with her face pressed against Nathan's shoulder. He held her, and didn't say anything because there was nothing to say. Sometimes people just needed to feel things without commentary. The interview aired 2 nights later. Nathan watched it with Celeste, both of them tense, waiting to see if his unscripted confession had helped or hurt. The host had edited it sympathetically, playing up the love story angle, but the real test was the public reaction. By morning, the verdict was in. Social media had decided they were either the most romantic couple ever or still definitely lying, with no middle ground. But the dominant narrative was shifting away from scandal and toward interest. People wanted to believe the story. They wanted the struggling single dad and the brilliant CEO to actually be in love. "We did it," Angela said on a conference call. "The story's not dead, but it's manageable. You controlled the narrative." After the call ended, Celeste looked at Nathan. "Thank you." "For what?" "For being willing to burn it all down for me. You could have played it safe. Instead, you told them you loved me on national television. I wasn't going to lie. I know. That's what makes it matter." Things settled after that. The story faded as new scandals emerged. Marcus stayed quiet, which made Nathan more nervous than if he'd been actively plotting. Eleanor called to say she'd watched the interview and found it acceptable, which was probably the closest she'd ever come to approval. Life found a rhythm. Nathan and Celeste shared a room, shared meals, shared their lives in a way that felt increasingly natural. Lily started calling Celeste Mom sometimes, catching herself and correcting to her name, but Celeste never corrected her, just smiled in that soft way she'd developed around Nathan's daughter. 2 months passed, then 3. The contract's end date loomed closer, but neither of them mentioned it. They were too busy living to think about when they were supposed to stop. Then Eleanor called a family meeting at the estate. Not a request, a summons. And from the tone of her voice, Nathan knew something had shifted. They made the drive in tense silence, Lily staying with a friend because Eleanor had specifically said no children. The estate looked the same as always, imposing, cold, designed to intimidate. Marcus's car was already there. "Whatever this is," Nathan said before they went inside, "we handle it together." Celeste nodded, but she looked worried in a way Nathan hadn't seen since the interview. Eleanor was waiting in the same library where Marcus had tried to expose them months ago. Marcus stood by the window, looking smug. And there was someone else. A man in his 40s with a briefcase and the bearing of someone who dealt in secrets. "Celeste, Nathan, sit." Eleanor's voice was controlled, but there was an edge to it. They sat. Marcus spoke first. "We know the truth. About the contract. About everything." Nathan felt Celeste go rigid beside him, but she kept her expression neutral. "I don't know what you're talking about." The man with the briefcase opened it and pulled out documents. "We have copies of the marriage contract, very detailed. 1 year in exchange for $5 million, debt forgiveness, and a salary. Signed by both of you 6 weeks before Celeste's deadline to marry." Nathan's blood went cold. "How did you get that?" "Doesn't matter. What matters is that we have proof the marriage is fraudulent, which means Celeste violated the terms of Father's will, which means control of the company passes to me," Marcus finished, barely containing his satisfaction. Celeste's mask finally cracked. "You broke into my lawyer's files. That's illegal." "Prove it," Marcus said. "Good luck getting a court to care about how evidence was obtained when the evidence shows you committed fraud." Eleanor looked at Celeste with something that might have been disappointment. "Is it true? Did you marry Nathan as a business arrangement?" Celeste met her mother's eyes. "Yes." Nathan's heart stopped. He'd expected her to deny it, to fight, to do anything but admit the truth. "But," Celeste continued, her voice steady, "that's not what it is now. The contract started this, but it's not what kept us together. I love Nathan. I love Lily. And I'm not going to apologize for finding something real in the middle of a situation I didn't choose." "Love doesn't negate the contract," Marcus said. "You still violated the will." "Actually," Nathan said, his mind racing, "we didn't." Everyone turned to look at him. The will said Celeste had to be married before her 31st birthday. It didn't specify how or why. She got married. The marriage is legal. What we do in private doesn't change that. The lawyer Marcus had brought frowned. "The spirit of the requirement isn't legally binding," Nathan interrupted. "Unless you can prove the marriage isn't real right now, in this moment, you have nothing." Marcus's face darkened. The contract proves we entered into an arrangement. It doesn't prove we didn't fall in love. It doesn't prove the marriage is fake." Nathan stood, pulling Celeste up with him. "You want to challenge this? Go ahead. Drag us to court. But you're going to have to explain to a judge why you illegally obtained private documents, why you're trying to destroy your own sister's life, and why you think a contract negates genuine emotion." "Nathan's right," Eleanor said quietly. Everyone turned to her in surprise. "Marcus, you've overplayed your hand. Again. Mother, you stole confidential documents. You threatened a child. You've spent months trying to destroy your sister instead of proving you deserve the company." Eleanor stood, and the temperature in the room dropped. "I've watched you both since your father died. Celeste has built the company. You've built resentment. Even if this marriage started as a strategy, she's shown more commitment to her responsibilities than you ever have. You can't be serious, Marcus said. I'm entirely serious. You will not pursue this. You will not contest Celeste's position. And if I hear about any more harassment of her family, I will use every resource at my disposal to ensure you never work in this industry again. Marcus looked like he'd been slapped. This is because of him, he pointed at Nathan. He's poisoned you against me. No, Eleanor said. You did that yourself. Marcus grabbed his briefcase and stormed out, the lawyer scrambling to follow. The door slammed hard enough to rattle the windows. In the silence that followed, Eleanor looked at Celeste and Nathan. I don't approve of deception, but I understand desperation, and I've seen how you've grown together. She paused. Your father would have hated this mess, but I think he would have respected the outcome. Thank you, Celeste said quietly. Eleanor nodded and left, leaving them alone in the library. Nathan turned to Celeste. Are you okay? She shook her head, then laughed, a slightly hysterical sound. Marcus had the contract. He had everything he needed to destroy me. And you argued him down with legal technicalities and the power of love. The power of love and spite. Mostly spite. Celeste kissed him, hard and desperate and relieved. I thought it was over. I thought we'd lost everything. We didn't lose. We won. Because of you. Because of us. They drove home in a daze, picking up Lily on the way. She chattered about her day, oblivious to the battle her parents had just fought and won. When they got back to the penthouse, Celeste disappeared into the bedroom and came back with the document, the original contract. What are you doing? Nathan asked. Without answering, Celeste walked to the fireplace, turned it on, and dropped the contract into the flames. They watched it burn, pages curling and blackening, all those careful terms turning to ash. We don't need it anymore, Celeste said. Whatever we are now, it's not because of that contract. Nathan pulled her close, watched the last of the papers disappear. So what are we? I don't know. A family, maybe a real one. I like that answer. Lily appeared in the doorway, clutching Stella the dinosaur. Are we still getting a puppy? Celeste looked at Nathan. Nathan looked at Celeste. And for the first time in months, they both started laughing. Real, uncontrolled laughter that had nothing to do with performance or pressure or proving anything to anyone. Yeah, Lil, Celeste said, still laughing. I think we're getting a puppy. And somehow, that felt like the biggest commitment of all. The puppy arrived on a Tuesday, 3 weeks after the confrontation at Eleanor's estate. Lily had picked her out from a shelter, a scrappy little mutt with brown and white patches and ears that stuck up at odd angles. She was loud, clumsy, and immediately knocked over a vase that probably cost more than Nathan's old car. Her name is Pancake, Lily announced, holding the wiggling puppy like a trophy. Celeste stared at the destroyed vase, then at the dog, then at Nathan. Pancake. I tried to talk her into something more dignified, Nathan said. Like what? I suggested Victoria, or Duchess, and she chose Pancake. She's 6. Pancakes are important to her. Celeste crouched down, letting Pancake sniff her hand. The dog immediately licked her fingers, tail wagging so hard her whole body shook. Something in Celeste's face softened. Well, Pancake, she said seriously, welcome to the family. Please try not to destroy anything else today. Pancake barked once, then peed on the floor. Nathan groaned. I'll get the paper towels. We're going to need a lot of paper towels, Celeste observed, but she was smiling. Actually smiling, the kind that reached her eyes and made her look younger and less like someone carrying the weight of a billion-dollar company. The puppy was chaos wrapped in fur, but she filled the penthouse with something it had desperately needed, noise and mess and life. Lily was obsessed, following Pancake everywhere, narrating her adventures in a running commentary that made Nathan wonder if his daughter might grow up to be a documentary filmmaker. Celeste, who'd claimed she had no interest in animals, was caught more than once sitting on the floor letting Pancake sleep in her lap while she worked on her tablet. When Nathan pointed this out, she insisted it was purely practical. The dog gets anxious when left alone. This is more efficient than listening to her whine. Right, efficient. I'm a practical person. You're wearing a $3,000 suit and there's dog hair all over it. Celeste looked down, noticed the fur, and shrugged. Dry cleaning exists. Nathan kissed the top of her head. You're a softie. I'm really not. You're a softie who pretends not to be. It's one of my favorite things about you. Celeste looked up at him, and there was something in her expression that made Nathan's chest tight. I have a lot of favorite things about you. Yeah? Yeah. Like how you pretend to be annoyed when Lily wakes you up at 6 in the morning, but you're always smiling. How you make terrible jokes when you're nervous. How you look at me like I'm not broken. You're not broken. I'm something. Damaged, maybe. Complicated, definitely. Nathan sat beside her on the floor, Pancake immediately abandoning Celeste to attack his shoelaces. Complicated isn't the same as broken, and even if you were broken, which you're not, I'd still be here. Why? Because I love you, the whole messy, complicated, occasionally terrifying package. Celeste was quiet for a moment, watching Pancake wage war on Nathan's shoes. The contract expires in 3 weeks. Nathan's stomach dropped. He'd been so focused on Marcus and the drama and just living their life that he'd almost forgotten there was supposed to be an end date. I know. I've been thinking about it, about what happens after. And I don't want it to end. Celeste looked at him. I know that was the deal. 1 year, then we go our separate ways, but I don't want to go anywhere. I want to stay here with you and Lily and apparently this disaster of a dog. I want this to be real. It is real. I mean, legally, permanently. No expiration date, no contract, just us. Nathan felt something unlock in his chest. Are you asking me to stay married to you? I'm asking if you want to, without the money, or the pressure, or the obligations, just because you want to. Celeste, I burned our contract weeks ago in my head. I've been married to you for real since about month 3. When you learned all the dinosaur names so you could keep up with Lily's conversations. That was research. I like to be informed. That was love. You just didn't want to admit it. Celeste's eyes were bright. So you'll stay after the year is up? I'll stay for as long as you'll have me. That might be a very long time. Good. They kissed, and Pancake barked indignantly at being ignored, and Lily came running in asking what was for dinner, and it was perfect in its chaos. No grand gesture, no dramatic music, just a family figuring out how to be a family. That night, after Lily and Pancake were both asleep, the dog in a crate in Lily's room. Despite Celeste's protests that she was too small to sleep alone, Nathan and Celeste sat on the balcony with wine and the city spread out below them. Marcus has been quiet, Nathan said. Too quiet. I know. It worries me. Think he's planning something? Marcus is always planning something. The question is what? Celeste took a sip of wine. Eleanor warned him off, but he's never been good at listening to her. What's the worst he can do? He already tried to expose the contract and failed. The worst he can do is find another angle, something we haven't protected against. She set her glass down. I've been thinking about stepping down. Nathan nearly dropped his wine. What? From the CEO position. Not immediately, but eventually, maybe in a few years. Celeste stared out at the city. I took this role because my father expected it, because I wanted to prove I could, but I'm not sure it's what I actually want anymore. What do you want? I want to go to Lily's school plays. I want to have dinner with my family every night. I want to work on projects I care about instead of fighting board members and dealing with Marcus's schemes. She looked at him. I want a life that isn't just surviving. I want to live. Nathan reached for her hand. Then do it. It's not that simple. Why not? Because the company is my father's legacy. Because hundreds of people depend on their jobs. Because walking away feels like giving up. Walking away isn't giving up if you're walking towards something better. Celeste leaned her head on his shoulder. When did you get so wise? I'm not wise. I'm just a guy who spent too long being miserable because I thought I didn't have choices. I don't want that for you. They sat in comfortable silence, the city noise distant and unimportant. Finally, Celeste spoke again. There's a board meeting next week, the final one before our anniversary. Marcus will be there. He's going to make one last play, I can feel it. Then we'll handle it, together. You have a lot of faith in us. Yeah, I do. The board meeting was scheduled for Thursday at 2. Celeste had been tense all morning, snapping at her assistant and going through 3 cups of coffee before noon. Nathan had offered to come with her, but she'd refused. "This is business. You don't need to be there." "I want to be there." "Why?" "So you can watch Marcus try to humiliate me in front of the board?" "So I can watch you demolish him in front of the board." Celeste had smiled at that, sharp and dangerous. "I do enjoy a good demolition." But when Nathan's phone rang at 1:30 with Celeste's name on the screen, he knew something had gone wrong. What happened? "Marcus called an emergency board meeting. Moved it up 2 hours. I just found out." Her voice was tight with barely controlled fury. "He's making his move. I'm coming. Nathan, I'm coming. Text me the address." He made it to the building in 15 minutes, took the elevator to the top floor, and found Celeste standing outside the boardroom looking like she was preparing for war. "You didn't have to come," she said. "Yeah, I did." Nathan straightened his tie. "What's the play?" "I don't know yet, but whatever it is, it's big. Marcus doesn't call emergency meetings unless he thinks he's already won." They walked into the boardroom together. 12 board members sat around a massive table, all of them older, all of them looking at Celeste with varying degrees of suspicion. Marcus stood at the head of the table, a presentation queued up on the screen behind him. "Celeste, how kind of you to join us. And you brought your husband." Marcus smiled. "How appropriate." "Cut to it, Marcus. What's this about?" "This is about the future of Rowan Creative Group, and whether it should continue to be led by someone who has consistently put personal interests above company welfare." Marcus clicked a button, and the screen filled with images. Nathan's old apartment, his eviction notice, documentation of his debts, the timeline of when everything was paid off, photos of him and Celeste at events before they were engaged, looking like strangers. "Most of this we already knew," one board member said. "We've seen the interview. We're aware of the circumstances." "But did you know about this?" Marcus clicked again. The screen showed the contract, the one they'd burned, but apparently Marcus had made copies. A marriage contract, 1 year in exchange for $5 million, signed 6 weeks before Celeste's deadline to marry under our father's will. The room erupted in whispers. Celeste's face went pale. "That contract is private," she said. "How did you—" "How I got it doesn't matter. What matters is that you defrauded the board, the company, and our father's memory with a fake marriage designed solely to maintain your control." "The marriage is legal," Nathan said, his voice cutting through the noise, "and it's real." "Real?" Marcus laughed. "You were paid $5 million to marry my sister. That's not real. That's prostitution with a marriage license." Nathan felt Celeste flinch beside him. His vision went red. "Watch your mouth," Nathan said quietly. "Or what? You'll defend her honor? How much is she paying you for that?" Nathan started forward, but Celeste grabbed his arm. "Don't. He wants you to lose control." "Listen to your wife," Marcus said. "She's good at control, good at manipulation, good at using people and discarding them when they're no longer useful. Just ask Richard Vance, or the 3 employees she fired last quarter for missing deadlines, or her husband, who she bought like a piece of furniture." "That's enough," Celeste said, her voice ice. "Is it? Because I think the board deserves to know exactly who's been running this company. A woman so desperate to maintain power that she married a complete stranger, so calculating that she put a price on her own husband, so cold that she turned a grieving widower into a business transaction." Something in Celeste broke. Nathan saw it happen, the careful control she'd maintained for months just shattering under the weight of Marcus's words. "You want the truth?" Celeste said, her voice shaking. "Fine. Here's the truth. Yes, I entered into a contract with Nathan. Yes, I paid him. Yes, it was calculated and desperate and everything Marcus is saying, because our father left me with an impossible choice, marry or lose everything I'd worked for, and I wasn't going to let that happen." The board members looked shocked. Marcus looked triumphant. "But here's what Marcus isn't telling you," Celeste continued. "That contract? We burned it months ago, because it stopped being relevant the moment we actually fell in love. And yes, we fell in love. Real, messy, complicated love that has nothing to do with money or deadlines or maintaining control." She turned to Nathan. "I'm sorry. I'm sorry I dragged you into this. I'm sorry Marcus is using you to hurt me. I'm sorry I ever thought I could keep business and personal separate. Celeste, no, let me finish. She looked back at the board. You want to remove me? Go ahead. Give Marcus the company. Let him run it into the ground while chasing quarterly profits and his own ego. Because I'm done. I'm done justifying my life to people who think love can be measured in dollars. I'm done pretending that running this company is more important than being happy. I'm done. She grabbed Nathan's hand. Let's go. They walked out of the boardroom together, leaving chaos behind them. Celeste's phone started buzzing immediately. Her assistant, the PR team, probably Eleanor. She turned it off. That was either the bravest thing I've ever seen or the stupidest, Nathan said as they got in the elevator. Probably both. Celeste leaned against the wall, suddenly looking exhausted. I just quit. I just walked away from everything my father built. No, you walked away from Marcus's trap. There's a difference. The board is going to vote me out. Marcus wins. Maybe. Or maybe you just showed them what integrity looks like. Celeste laughed, slightly hysterical. Integrity? I paid you to marry me, and then you fell in love with me, and you chose me over the company. That counts for something? They made it home in silence. Lily and Pancake greeted them at the door, oblivious to the disaster that had just unfolded. Celeste scooped up the puppy and buried her face in the dog's fur. I need a minute, she said quietly. Nathan understood. He took Lily to the kitchen, made her a snack, and tried to explain in 6-year-old terms that Celeste had had a bad day at work. Is she sad? Lily asked. Yeah, kiddo, she's pretty sad. Can I give her my amethyst? That always makes me feel better. Nathan's throat tightened. I think she'd really like that. Lily ran off to her room, Pancake barking and chasing after her. Nathan found Celeste in their bedroom, sitting on the floor with her back against the bed, still in her suit, looking more lost than he'd ever seen her. He sat beside her. Lily wants to give you her amethyst. The one I gave her? Yeah. She says it makes her feel better when she's sad. Celeste's eyes filled with tears. I don't deserve you to. Yes, you do. You deserve everything good. I just destroyed my career, my father's legacy, everything. You protected yourself, and me, and what we have together. That's not nothing. Celeste turned to him, tears finally spilling over. What if I made the wrong choice? What if Marcus ruins the company and it's my fault for walking away? Then it's his fault for being terrible, not yours for refusing to play his game. Lily appeared in the doorway, holding the purple geode like an offering. She walked over to Celeste and carefully placed it in her hands. This is for you, Lily said solemnly, because you're sad, and it's magic. Celeste pulled Lily into a hug, holding her tight. Thank you, sweetheart. It's very magic. Are you going to be okay? I don't know, but I'm going to try. Okay. Also, Pancake ate one of your shoes, the black ones. Despite everything, Celeste laughed. Of course she did. That night, after Lily was asleep and Pancake was finally quiet, Nathan and Celeste lay in bed staring at the ceiling. What happens now? Celeste asked. I don't know. We figure it out. I don't have a job. I probably destroyed my reputation. Marcus is going to tell everyone I'm unstable. So we let him. And we build something new. Like what? I don't know, but we'll figure it out together. Celeste rolled over to face him. I love you. I don't think I say that enough. You show it. That's more important. I want to say it anyway. I love you. I love Lily. I love this weird life we've built, and I'm terrified that I just destroyed all of it. You didn't destroy anything. You just changed direction. When did you become an optimist? When I married you and my life got infinitely better. They fell asleep tangled together, and Nathan tried not to worry about what morning would bring. Morning brought Eleanor. She showed up at 8, unannounced, looking severe in a gray suit that probably cost more than a car. Nathan answered the door while Celeste was still getting dressed. Mrs. Rowan, this is a surprise. I imagine it is. Is my daughter available? I'll get her. Celeste appeared moments later, looking wary. Mother, what are you doing here? We need to talk, privately. Nathan started to leave, but Celeste grabbed his hand. No, whatever you have to say, you can say in front of Nathan. Eleanor's expression softened slightly. Very well. I came to tell you that the board voted last night. Marcus's motion to remove you as CEO was rejected. 11-1. Celeste stared. What? They rejected it. You're still CEO. Marcus is not. I don't understand. I walked out. I admitted to the contract. You also showed backbone, conviction, and a willingness to sacrifice everything for what you believe in. Turns out, the board found that more compelling than Marcus's accusations. Eleanor sat down on the couch without being invited. Also, I may have reminded them that I control 20% of the voting shares and would personally ensure the removal of any board member who voted against you. You threatened them. I incentivized them. There's a difference. Nathan couldn't help but smile. You came through for her. Celeste is my daughter. She's difficult, stubborn, and apparently willing to marry strangers to avoid losing control. But she's also the best CEO this company has ever had, and I'm not going to let Marcus's jealousy destroy that. Celeste sat down hard in the nearest chair. I don't know what to say. You could say thank you. Thank you. Eleanor nodded. There will be conditions. The board wants transparency. No more secrets, no more contracts hidden in lawyers' files. They want to know that your marriage is genuine. It is, Celeste said firmly. Then prove it. Live your life. Be happy. Show them that you're more than just a CEO. Eleanor stood. And for what it's worth, I was wrong about Nathan. He's good for you. You smile more. You're softer. Your father would have hated it, but I think it's an improvement. After Eleanor left, Celeste and Nathan sat in stunned silence. Did that just happen? Celeste asked. I think your mother just admitted she was wrong and gave us her blessing. I didn't know she was capable of either of those things. Neither did I. Celeste started laughing, the kind of relieved, slightly manic laughter that came after surviving something you thought would destroy you. Nathan joined in, and when Lily wandered out asking what was so funny, they pulled her into a hug and tried to explain that sometimes good things happened when you least expected them. The rest of the day was a blur of phone calls and meetings and press releases. The official statement was that Celeste Rowan remained CEO, that certain unfounded accusations had been investigated and dismissed, and that the company stood behind her leadership. Marcus's name wasn't mentioned, but everyone knew what it meant. By evening, Nathan was exhausted from watching Celeste navigate corporate politics. She was in her element, handling each crisis with the same precision she brought to everything, but he could see the toll it took. When she finally came home at 8, she looked wrung out. How bad? Nathan asked. Could be worse. The board wants quarterly reviews now, more oversight, but I keep my job. And Marcus? Resigned from the board, effective immediately. Eleanor gave him a choice, resign quietly or be removed publicly. He chose the former. Nathan pulled her into his arms. It's over then, really over. Yeah, it's over. Celeste's voice was muffled against his chest. I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop. There is no other shoe. You won. We won. It doesn't feel like winning. It feels like surviving. Sometimes those are the same thing. Later, after dinner and after putting Lily to bed, they found themselves back on the balcony with wine. It had become their place, this little corner of the world where they could breathe. The contract expires in 2 weeks, Celeste said suddenly. I thought we agreed to ignore that. We did, but I've been thinking we should do something, mark the occasion. Like what? I don't know, renew our vows maybe, but real ones this time, ones we actually write ourselves. Nathan looked at her, this brilliant, difficult, extraordinary woman who'd walked into his life offering money and ended up offering so much more. Yeah, I'd like that. Really? Really? Let's get married again, for real this time, just us and Lily and whatever other chaos we've accumulated. Celeste smiled, and it was the kind of smile that made Nathan remember why he'd fallen in love with her in the first place. I love you. I love you too, even when you're difficult. especially when I'm difficult. Yeah, Nathan admitted, especially then. They sat together as the city lights flickered on below, two people who'd started as strangers with a contract and somehow become a family. It wasn't perfect. Nothing ever was, but it was theirs, and that was enough. The 2 weeks before the contract's official expiration date passed in a strange kind of limbo. Celeste threw herself into work, implementing the board's new transparency measures and restructuring departments Marcus had quietly sabotaged over the years. Nathan spent his days working from home, picking up Lily from school, and trying to convince Pancake that shoes were not food. They didn't talk much about the vow renewal. It hung between them like a promise they were both afraid to examine too closely, as if discussing it might somehow jinx the whole thing. Then, 3 days before the anniversary, Nathan came home from picking up Lily to find Celeste sitting at the kitchen table with a bottle of whiskey and a stack of papers. "That's never a good sign," Nathan said, setting down Lily's backpack. Celeste looked up, and Nathan could see she'd been crying. Not the quiet, controlled tears she usually allowed herself, but the messy, exhausted kind that came from holding everything in for too long. "What happened?" "The board called an audit. Not because they don't trust me, they say, but because Marcus raised enough questions that they need to be thorough." She pushed one of the papers across the table. "They're reviewing every contract I signed in the last 2 years, including the one with you." Nathan sat down hard. "But we burned it." Marcus had copies, multiple copies apparently, and he sent them to everyone he could think of before he resigned. Celeste's voice was flat. "So now the board wants to interview you? Ask questions about our arrangement, the timeline, whether any company resources were used inappropriately." "When?" "Tomorrow, 10 a.m. "Okay? We'll handle it. Nathan, they're going to ask you everything. How much I paid you, what the terms were, whether you would have married me without the money." She looked at him, her eyes red. "They're going to make you prove we're real. Then I'll prove it." "How? By lying? By pretending we didn't start this as a transaction?" "By telling the truth. That, yeah, it started as a contract, but it became something real. Something that matters more than any amount of money." Celeste laughed bitterly. "You think they'll believe that? A fairy tale about the poor single dad and the Ice Queen CEO falling in love? It's not a fairy tale. It's what happened. It sounds ridiculous when you say it out loud." Nathan reached across the table, took her hands. "Celeste, look at me. We survived your brother trying to destroy us. We survived the media circus. We survived your mother's judgment and a board full of people looking for reasons to doubt you. We can survive this. What if we can't? What if they decide the marriage invalidates my position? What if I lose everything anyway? Then we start over. We figure out what comes next. I don't know how to start over. I've spent my entire adult life building this company. So build something else. Build something that makes you happy instead of something that makes you exhausted." Celeste pulled her hands away, stood up, walked to the window. It was her default defense, distance and glass. "You make it sound so simple." "It's not simple. It's terrifying. But the alternative is spending the rest of your life trying to prove yourself to people who will never be satisfied. I can't just walk away?" "I'm not asking you to. I'm asking you to consider that maybe your worth isn't tied to a company your father built. Maybe it's tied to the life you're building right now." Before Celeste could respond, Lily appeared in the doorway, Pancake in her arms. "Why are you guys fighting?" "We're not fighting, sweetheart," Nathan said. "You sound like you're fighting, like how Emma's parents sound before they go to different rooms." Celeste turned from the window, and Nathan saw her visibly pull herself together. "We're just having a hard conversation. Sometimes grown-ups need to have those." "About what?" "About work and choices and what's important." Lily considered this, then walked over and set Pancake down. The puppy immediately started attacking Celeste's shoelaces. "I think family is important. That's what my teacher says. Family is more important than anything." "Your teacher is very smart," Celeste said, and her voice cracked slightly. "Are we a family? Like a real one?" Nathan and Celeste exchanged a look. "Yeah, Lil," Nathan said. "We're a real one." "Good," Because I like it here. I like having a mom again. She said it casually, like it wasn't the most important thing she'd said in months, then scooped up Pancake and wandered back to her room. Celeste sat down hard, like her legs had stopped working. She called me Mom. I heard. I'm not her mom. Sarah was her mom. You're the person who makes sure she has everything she needs, who asks about her day, who learned dinosaur names and bought her a purple bedroom and lets her dog destroy your expensive shoes. You're her mom in every way that counts. Celeste's face crumpled. I don't know how to be a mom. I barely know how to be a wife. Yeah, you do. You just don't trust yourself. Nathan moved to sit beside her on the floor, their backs against the cabinets. You're so busy trying to be perfect that you don't see all the ways you're already enough. I'm not enough. I'm cold and controlling, and I measure everything in risk and reward. You're also kind and loyal, and you love harder than anyone I've ever met. You just hide it better. Celeste leaned her head on his shoulder. What am I going to tell the board tomorrow? The truth. All of it. Let them decide what to do with it. And if they decide I'm not fit to lead, then you'll do something else, and you'll be great at it, because you're great at everything, even when you don't want to be. They sat there until Lily called them for dinner, frozen pizza that Nathan had thrown in the oven, eaten on the couch while watching a movie about dinosaurs. It was mundane and perfect, and Nathan could see Celeste cataloging every moment like she was afraid it might disappear. The board interview was worse than Nathan had imagined. 5 board members in a conference room, all of them looking at him like he was a puzzle to be solved. Celeste sat beside him, her face carefully neutral, while a court reporter typed every word. The lead investigator was a woman in her 50s named Patricia, who had the demeanor of someone who'd seen every scheme imaginable and wasn't impressed by any of them. Mr. Hayes, let's start with the basics. When did you first meet Celeste Rowan? 8 months before we got married. I interviewed for a position at the company. And when did the romantic relationship begin? Nathan glanced at Celeste, who gave him a nearly imperceptible nod. Tell the truth. There wasn't a romantic relationship at first. She offered me a business arrangement. I needed money. She needed a husband. We signed a contract. The board members exchanged looks. Patricia didn't react. What were the terms? 1 year of marriage, I'd live with her, attend events, maintain appearances. In exchange, she'd pay off my debts, give me a salary, and at the end of the year, pay me $5 million. That's a significant sum. Yes. And you agreed to this arrangement knowing it was fraudulent? I agreed to it knowing it was legal. The marriage was real. The reasons behind it were complicated. Complicated how? Nathan took a breath. Her father's will required her to be married by her 31st birthday. I was desperate and in debt. We both needed something the other could provide. It started as a transaction. Started, Patricia said, implying it changed? Yes. When? Nathan thought about it. I don't know exactly. Somewhere between the first month and the third. She bought my daughter a purple bedroom, started asking about her day, started being part of our lives instead of just sharing an address. And I started seeing past the CEO facade to the person underneath. And you fell in love? Yeah, I fell in love. How convenient, right when the contract made it profitable to do so. Nathan felt his temper flare. It wasn't convenient, it was terrifying, because falling in love with someone wasn't part of the deal, and it complicated everything, but it happened anyway. Patricia turned to Celeste. Mrs. Rowan, is this accurate? Yes. When did you develop feelings for Mr. Hayes? Celeste was quiet for a moment. I'm not sure I can pinpoint an exact moment, but I remember realizing that I looked forward to coming home, that I wanted to hear about his day, that I cared about his opinion on things that had nothing to do with business. She looked at Nathan. I remember being terrified that the year would end and he'd leave and that I'd be alone again. So you're saying this arrangement became a genuine relationship? I'm saying it was always genuine, just not in the way it started out. We were honest about what we needed from each other. Then we became honest about what we wanted from each other. That's not fraud. That's just life. Patricia made notes. The contract has expired as of 3 days ago. Why are you still together? Because the contract doesn't matter anymore, Nathan said. We're not together because of a piece of paper or money or deadlines. We're together because we choose to be. That's very romantic, Mr. Hayes. It's also very hard to prove. I don't know how to prove love to you. I can show you that we share a bedroom, that we make decisions together, that her daughter calls me dad, and my daughter calls her mom. I can tell you that she knows how I take my coffee, and I know she hates mornings, and we fight about whose turn it is to walk the dog. I can tell you that I'd give back every penny she ever gave me if it meant keeping her in my life. Nathan leaned forward. But if you need a contract or a formula or some kind of evidence that fits in a spreadsheet, I can't give you that. Love doesn't work that way. Bush. The room was quiet. Patricia studied them both for a long moment, then closed her folder. I think we have what we need. Thank you both for your time. In the elevator afterward, Celeste was shaking. I can't tell if that went well or terribly. Neither can I. They're going to vote on it next week. Whether the contract constitutes a conflict of interest, whether I misused company resources, whether I'm fit to continue as CEO. And if they vote no, then I'm done. Marcus wins after all, just slower. Nathan pulled her close. Whatever happens, we're okay. You know that, right? I want to believe that. Then believe it. The vote was scheduled for the following Tuesday, but the weekend before, Eleanor called with unexpected news. Marcus is leaving the country, she said without preamble. Moving to London. Apparently he's been offered a position at a firm there. Offered or fled? Celeste asked. Does it matter? He's gone. And he won't be coming back anytime soon if I have anything to say about it. What did you do, Mother? I made it clear that if he remained in the country, I would ensure that every door in this industry closed to him, permanently. He chose the wiser option. After she hung up, Celeste looked stunned. She basically exiled her own son. To protect you, Nathan said. I didn't think she cared enough to do that. Maybe you don't give her enough credit. Maybe. The vow renewal was set for Sunday, 2 days before the board vote. They'd kept it small, just Eleanor, Lily, and a handful of close friends. No press, no spectacle, just a quiet ceremony in the penthouse garden that Celeste had never used until Nathan suggested it as a venue. Lily had insisted on being the flower girl again and spent the morning practicing walking slowly while Pancake tried to eat the petals. Celeste wore a simple white dress, no designer label, nothing formal. Nathan wore a suit that actually fit because Celeste had quietly had one made for him without telling him it was coming. They'd written their own vows this time, real ones. When the moment came, standing under a simple arch covered in flowers that Lily had helped pick out, Nathan went first. Celeste, when you first offered me that contract, I thought it was insane. A year of my life for money and stability. It sounded too good to be true, and I was right. It wasn't good. It was better. Because I didn't just get financial security, I got you. I got someone who challenges me and frustrates me and makes me want to be better. I got someone who loves my daughter like her own. I got a partner, a friend, and the love of my life. He swallowed hard. A year ago, I agreed to marry you because I was desperate. Today, I'm choosing to stay married to you because I can't imagine my life without you in it. You're difficult and stubborn, and you drink too much coffee, and you work too many hours. But you're also brilliant and fierce and loyal and kind when you think no one's watching, and I love all of it, all of you, for as long as you'll have me. Celeste was crying before he finished. When it was her turn, she had to take a moment to compose herself. Nathan, I've spent my entire life being told that emotions are weaknesses, that vulnerability is dangerous, that love makes you soft and soft gets you hurt. And then you walked into my office with your terrible tie and your eviction notice and your daughter who needed stability, and you made me want to be soft. You made me want to be vulnerable. You made me believe that maybe being open wasn't a weakness, but the bravest thing I could do. She wiped her eyes, not caring about the mascara. I married you the first time because I needed a husband on paper. I'm marrying you again because I need you in my life. Because you see me, really see me, and you don't run away. Because you make me laugh, and you call me out when I'm being difficult, and you love me anyway. Because you gave me a family when I didn't even know I wanted one. Her voice broke. I love you, not because of what you can do for me or what you can give me, but because of who you are. and I promise to spend the rest of my life trying to be worthy of that. You already are, Nathan said, and kissed her before the officiant could pronounce them married. The small group applauded. Lily cheered and Pancake barked, and Eleanor actually smiled. A real smile, not her usual controlled expression. It was imperfect and beautiful, and theirs. At the reception, really, just dinner in the penthouse with too much wine and Lily's playlist of dinosaur songs, Eleanor pulled Nathan aside. I owe you an apology, Shah, she said. You already apologized. Not properly. I judged you from the moment I met you. I saw a man who needed money and assumed the worst. I was wrong. You were protecting your daughter. I was being cruel. There's a difference. Eleanor looked at Celeste across the room, laughing at something Lily said. She's different with you, lighter. My husband wanted her to be strong, and she is, but he never wanted her to be happy. I think he thought the two were mutually exclusive. They're not. No, clearly not. Eleanor studied Nathan. The board is going to vote in your favor. I've made sure of it. How? By reminding them that Celeste has tripled the company's value in 6 years, that every decision she's made has been in the company's best interest, even when it wasn't in her own, that one questionable contract doesn't negate years of exemplary leadership. She paused. Also, I may have suggested that I would pull my investment and tank the stock price if they removed her, but mostly the first thing. Nathan couldn't help but smile. You're terrifying. I'm a mother protecting my child. It's what we do. Tuesday came too quickly. Celeste was a wreck all morning, snapping at everyone and drinking coffee like it was a competitive sport. The board meeting was at 2. By 1:30, she was pacing. What if Eleanor was wrong? What if they vote to remove me anyway? Then we figure out what's next. Stop being so calm. This is my entire career. I know, but it's not your entire life. Celeste stopped pacing, looked at him. When did you become the reasonable one? When you became the one freaking out. We balance each other. She kissed him, hard and desperate. I love you. I love you too. Now go show that board why you're the best CEO they'll ever have. The meeting lasted 3 hours. Nathan spent them at home with Lily, trying to distract himself with homework and dog training and anything that would keep him from checking his phone every 30 seconds. When Celeste finally called, her voice was shaking. They voted to keep me, 12-0. Nathan felt something unlock in his chest. Yeah? Yeah. Patricia gave a whole speech about how the contract, while unusual, didn't constitute fraud or misuse of company resources. That my personal life, as long as it didn't interfere with my professional obligations, was my business, and that removing me would be a greater disservice to the company than any questionable marriage arrangement. That's amazing. Nathan, I still have my job. I get to keep doing what I love. Do you? Love it, I mean. Celeste was quiet for a moment. I don't know anymore. I love parts of it. The strategy, the building, seeing ideas become reality. But the politics, the constant fighting, the feeling like I can never do enough, I'm not sure that's sustainable. So change it. How? I don't know, but you've got time to figure it out now. That night, after Lily was asleep and Pancake was settled in her crate, Nathan and Celeste sat on their balcony again. It had become their ritual, this quiet space where they could just exist together without the weight of the world pressing down. I've been thinking about what you said, Celeste began, about building something that makes me happy instead of just surviving. Yeah? I want to start a foundation, something focused on helping single parents get back on their feet. Debt relief, job training, affordable childcare, all the things that would have saved you years of suffering. Nathan turned to look at her. Seriously? I have the money, I have the connections, and I have personal experience now with what it's like to watch someone I love struggle with a system designed to keep them down. She met his eyes. I can't fix everything, but I can fix some things, and maybe that's enough. That's more than enough. That's incredible. I'd want you involved. You understand that world better than I ever could. I'm not a businessman. No. But you're someone who lived through it and came out the other side. That's more valuable than any MBA. Nathan pulled her close. We could really do this? Build something together? I think we already are. This is just making it official. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the city lights flicker below. After a while, Celeste spoke again. I talked to a realtor today. Nathan's stomach dropped. You're selling the penthouse? I'm thinking about it. This place has always felt like a monument to my father. Cold, expensive, impressive, but not warm. I want something different. Like what? A house. With a yard for Pancake. A neighborhood where Lily can ride her bike. Space that feels like ours, not his. She looked at him. What do you think? I think that sounds perfect. Yeah? Yeah, this place is beautiful, but it's never felt like home. Not really. What does home feel like? Nathan thought about it. Like chaos. Like Lily's dinosaur drawings on the fridge and dog toys on the floor, and you stealing my coffee when you think I'm not looking. Home feels like us. Celeste smiled, and it was that soft, unguarded smile she'd been wearing more and more lately. I like that definition. 6 months later, they moved into a house in a quiet neighborhood outside the city. It was smaller than the penthouse, with a backyard that Pancake immediately claimed as her kingdom, and a kitchen that actually got used for cooking instead of storing takeout containers. Lily's room was still purple because some things were non-negotiable, and there was an office where Nathan and Celeste could work on the foundation together. The foundation launched quietly in the spring. No big press conference, no celebrity endorsements, just a website and a mission statement, and Nathan's story told plainly. Single father, drowning in debt, saved by someone willing to take a chance. They funded it entirely with Celeste's money, not the company's, not Eleanor's, just hers. Money she'd earned and could use however she wanted. The first grant went to a woman in a situation eerily similar to Nathan's. Single mother, medical debt, eviction notice. They paid off her debts, helped her find stable housing, connected her with job training programs. 3 months later, she sent them a photo of her daughter at her new school, smiling in her uniform. This is why we're doing it, Celeste said, staring at the photo. This right here. Nathan kissed her temple. You're making a difference. We're making a difference. Celeste had stepped back from day-to-day operations at Rowan Creative Group, promoting a COO she trusted to handle the routine while she focused on big-picture strategy. It gave her time to breathe, to be present, to actually live instead of just survive. She still worked too much, still stressed about quarterly reports, but she also made it to Lily's school plays and family dinners and lazy Sunday mornings where they did nothing but exist together. Marcus sent a card from London when he heard about the foundation. It was brief, almost curt, but it said, "Congratulations, you're doing better than I ever gave you credit for." It wasn't an apology, but it was acknowledgement. Celeste filed it away and didn't respond. Some bridges weren't worth rebuilding. Eleanor, surprisingly, became a regular presence in their lives. She came to dinner once a month, always bringing some expensive wine and subtle criticism that Nathan had learned to interpret as affection. She'd mellowed slightly, or maybe she'd just realized that being harsh all the time was exhausting. She was still Eleanor, formal, exacting, occasionally cutting, but she was also a grandmother who remembered Lily's favorite color and asked about Pancake's training. One evening, almost a year after they'd renewed their vows, Nathan found Celeste in the backyard watching Lily teach pancake tricks. The dog was terrible at it, more interested in the treats than the commands. But Lily was patient and encouraging and entirely Celeste's daughter in the ways that mattered. "You okay?" Nathan asked, settling into the chair beside her. "I'm good, just thinking." About? About how different my life is now. How a year and a half ago, I was alone in a penthouse, convinced that control was the only thing that mattered. And now I'm here, watching our daughter try to teach our dog to roll over, and I can't remember why I thought being alone was safer. Because being alone meant no one could hurt you. True, but it also meant no one could love me. She turned to look at him. I was so scared of being vulnerable that I almost missed this. All of it. Nathan took her hand. But you didn't miss it. You chose it. Every day, you choose this. So do you. Best choice I ever made. Lily ran over, Pancake bounding beside her. Did you see? She almost rolled over. Almost counts, Celeste said seriously. She's making excellent progress. Can we get ice cream to celebrate? It's 6 o'clock. We haven't had dinner. Please? Lily deployed the puppy dog eyes that worked on Nathan 70% of the time and on Celeste 95%. Because Celeste pretended to consider it. Fine, but only because Pancake worked so hard. They piled into the car, the sensible SUV Celeste had bought to replace her sleek sedan, because car seats and dog crates didn't fit in sports cars, and drove to the ice cream place down the street. It was mundane and perfect, this life they'd built. No drama, no contracts, no deadlines. Just a family doing family things. Later, after Lily was in bed and Pancake was snoring in her crate, Nathan and Celeste sat on their back porch with wine and the quiet sounds of the neighborhood settling in for the night. Do you ever regret it? Celeste asked. Saying yes to the contract? Getting tangled up in my mess? Never. Do you? No, but I regret that you had to go through so much because of me. The media circus, the board investigation, Marcus's harassment. Worth it. How can you say that? Because I got you. I got Lily having a mom again. I got a life where I'm not constantly stressed about money or survival. I got to be part of building something that helps people. Nathan set down his wine glass. Yeah, it was hard. But the hard stuff made us stronger, made us real. Celeste was quiet for a moment. I used to think love was transactional, that it was about what people could do for each other, what they could provide. My father loved my mother because she gave him connections. My mother loved him because he gave her status. Everything was conditional. And now? Now I know that real love isn't about what you get. It's about who you become. You made me kinder, more open, more willing to take risks that don't fit on a spreadsheet. She looked at him. You made me better. You made me braver, strong enough to believe I deserved more than just surviving. We're quite a pair. Yeah, we really are. They sat together as the stars came out. Two people who'd started with a contract and built something neither of them had expected. It wasn't a fairy tale. Fairy tales didn't include board meetings and family drama and dogs that ate expensive shoes. But it was real. It was messy and complicated and sometimes difficult. And it was theirs. Somewhere in the house, Lily called out in her sleep. Both of them stood automatically, but Nathan waved Celeste back. I've got it. He found Lily tangled in her blankets, muttering about dinosaurs. Nathan straightened her out, tucked her back in, and stood for a moment watching her sleep. This little girl who'd been through so much, losing her mother, poverty, uncertainty, and came out the other side still believing in magic and dinosaurs and the goodness of people. Is she okay? Celeste whispered from the doorway. Just dreaming. The good kind, I think. They stood together, watching their daughter sleep, and Nathan thought about all the nights he'd stood in this exact position in their old apartment, terrified about the future, wondering how he'd make it work. He'd never imagined this, a house, a wife who loved him, a daughter who was thriving. It had seemed impossible. But impossible things happen sometimes, if you were desperate enough to take a chance on them. Come on, Celeste said softly, taking his hand. Let her sleep. They went back to the porch, back to their wine and their quiet. After a while, Celeste spoke again. I've been thinking about having another kid. Nathan nearly dropped his glass. What? A baby. Our baby. I know it's fast and there's a lot to consider, but yes. You don't want to think about it? I've been thinking about it for months. I just didn't know if you wanted that. Celeste smiled. I didn't think I did, but then I realized I want to do this from the beginning with you. The late nights, the chaos, all of it. I want a family that we build together from the ground up. Nathan pulled her close. Are you sure? You said you didn't know if you had the capacity for kids. I didn't, but you taught me that capacity isn't fixed. It grows. We grow. She looked up at him. I want this, with you. Then let's do it. They sat there planning and dreaming, talking about names and nurseries and how Lily would handle being a big sister. It was premature and optimistic and entirely them, jumping into something without fully thinking it through, trusting that they'd figure it out together. 3 years later, Nathan stood in the same backyard watching Lily teach the same tricks to Pancake, while their son, 2 years old, stubborn as hell, absolutely Celeste's child, tried to eat dirt. Celeste was at a foundation board meeting, presenting the annual report that showed they'd helped over 500 families in the last year alone. His phone buzzed with a text from her. "Meeting's running long. Can you handle bath time?" He responded, "We've got it. Take your time." Another message came through, just 3 words. "I love you." Nathan smiled, typed back, "Love you too." It was ordinary. It was everything. When Celeste got home an hour later, the house was in controlled chaos. Both kids were in pajamas, Pancake was begging for dinner scraps, and Nathan was reading a book about space exploration that Lily had decided was tonight's bedtime story. Celeste kicked off her heels, loosened her hair, and joined them on the couch. "How was the meeting?" Nathan asked. "Good. We're expanding to 3 more cities next year." "That's amazing." "It is." She looked around at the mess, toys on the floor, crayon drawings on the coffee table. The general disorder of a lived-in house. "This is better, though. This is what matters." After the kids were asleep and the house was quiet, they found themselves in their bedroom, exhausted and content. "Do you ever think about where we'd be if I'd said no to that contract?" Nathan asked. "Sometimes. I'd probably still be alone in the penthouse, married to the company, convinced I didn't need anyone. And I'd probably still be living paycheck to paycheck, one emergency away from disaster. We saved each other, didn't we?" "Yeah, I think we did." Celeste rolled over to face him. "I'm glad you said yes, even though it was crazy and risky and probably the worst business decision either of us ever made." "Best worst decision of my life." "Mine too." They fell asleep tangled together, 2 people who'd entered into a contract for all the wrong reasons and stayed for all the right ones. The money was long spent. The original contract burned to ashes, the year that was supposed to define them long past. But they were still here, still choosing each other every single day. In the end, that was what mattered, not the how or the why or the complicated path that brought them together. Just the choice to stay, the choice to build something real out of something that started as fake, the choice to believe that love could grow in the most unlikely places, between the most unlikely people. Nathan Hayes had signed a contract promising 1 year of his life. Instead, he'd found a lifetime worth living. And Celeste Rowan, who'd bought a husband to save her company, discovered that what she really needed wasn't someone to perform for the world, but someone to be real with when the performance ended. They'd both gotten so much more than they bargained for, and neither of them would change a single thing.